The Best of Living in Iowa is funded in part by the Gilchrist Foundation. Founded by Jocelyn Gilchrist, furthering the philanthropic interests of the Gilchrist family in wildlife and conservation, the arts and public broadcasting, and disaster relief.
Funding for this program was provided by Friends, the Iowa Public Television Foundation. Generations of families and friends who feel passionate about the programs they watch on Iowa Public Television.
Hello, this is Morgan Halgren. For 16 seasons, Living in Iowa told the tale of what it means to be uniquely Iowan. Tonight, we honor that spirit by bringing you another glimpse into our rich heritage with a few stories from our archives. In this episode of The Best of Living in Iowa, we take a long, slow drive along the highways and byways of the Hawkeye State on the annual Motor Ioway tour.
Thanks for joining us. There are lots of ways of seeing the state of Iowa, and over the years we've brought you programs that have allowed you to take part in some pretty exciting travel adventures. You've biked across the state with us on RAGBRAI, trekked along the Mormon Trail in covered wagons and on foot, checked out the Lincoln Highway and the Great River Road, and canoed the stretch of the Mississippi that forms Iowa's eastern border. Well, now it's time to gear up for a flashier tour. It's time to Motor Ioway.
In this bag, you have some of the programs that tell who all the participants
What's your
are.
idea of a good vacation?
And then this will be your tour guide that tells you the route we're taking.
What would you say to a vacation that's a 7-day tour of Iowa that covers over 1,000 miles? Oh, and by the way, you buy the gas because you're the driver. It's called Motor Ioway, and the #1 rule is that you bring your own transportation. The #2 rule is that your mode of transportation has to be 25 years old or older. After that, the rules are a little more relaxed.
We don't put a premium on older, we don't put a premium on better. There's no judging, there's no competition. The idea is if you're proud of it and want to show it off, and if it's a family heirloom or something you restored, bring it out and be part of our show.
John Swanson is one of the 3 original organizers of Motor Ioway, an annual event that began in 1996 as a way to celebrate Iowa's sesquicentennial. Since its beginnings, those who share the notion that a good vacation very well could involve the state of Iowa and an automobile that's older than most college students have gotten together the first full week in October. Their objective, come rain or shine, is to have a good time. The day before actually hitting the road, however, packets are parceled out which contain all the paraphernalia needed to participate in the tour.
And your tour books and everything are in here, and you've been with us before, haven't you?
There's also a meeting in the evening that allows everyone to get to know, well, everyone else, including the organizers of the tour.
Welcome, everybody. You're going to get ready to go on the road here again.
There's Jerry Schneff, who constantly reminds those on the tour that you gotta know the territory. It's the Motor Ioway slogan, and there's a sneaking suspicion that the slogan was Jerry's idea.
So let's just pause for a word of prayer.
Claude J. Jones is another one of the organizers and a Presbyterian pastor. He ends each meeting with a prayer and then revs folks up with, "Ladies and gentlemen, start your conversations."
Now, you can tell the general...
And while you've already met John Swanson, meet his alter ego.
We all know it stands for motor idiot.
Be afraid. Be very afraid. Officer John makes sure that any slip-up, like running out of gas, does not go unnoticed.
Remember, that's what the theme of this trip is. You got to know the territory, so take the time to do it. There we go.
The driving part of the tour really gets in gear the following day, right after another meeting. In fact, there's a morning meeting each day of the tour, where Jerry shares information concerning points of interest that can be found along each day's route. John usually plays the role of the Motor Ioway newsboy.
Kind of a special announcement.
And Claude offers some words of inspiration, as well as...
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, start your conversations.
It seemed appropriate that an entourage of classic cars which have played a role in motor history would begin and end their road trip at Living History Farms in Des Moines. In total, 183 vintage vehicles and close to 400 people took part in a motorcade that included everything from fire trucks to family sedans. The tour passed through 30 of Iowa's 99 counties. Concentrating on the southeast corner of the state, it went through 80 communities, 24 of which were listed as official stops. The overnight stops included Des Moines, Ottumwa, Iowa City, Keokuk, Davenport, Coralville, and Pella. The tour wasn't designed for those living in the fast lane. Instead, it had those in mind who wanted to get to know the territory. Besides the overnight stops, each day there were 3 pit stops known as shine times. The stops allowed those on the tour to shine their wheels and bask in the attention of interested onlookers. Time now for a Motor Ioway quiz. Our question is, what car company offered an Archer as a hood ornament? The answer is the Pierce Arrow Motor Company. It's something that Grant Quam would know. He has a collection of over 60 automobiles, which includes this orange-colored Pierce Arrow.
These colors, this farmer, when he had it, was having coffee one morning and made some coffee, and he had a, what was it? Butternut coffee can. And that's the same colors, the trim and the red. So that's where this color came from. People ask about that.
Kind of like cyclone colors.
Yeah, it is. But this car, when you bought these new, they were so expensive, you could have them chrome plated, I think, any color you want, just so they could sell them.
Ray O'Hannison was one of the more unusual Motor Ioway participants. Ray is a retired trucker and owns a 1958 Kenworthy, but was driving a 1953 auto car on the tour.
Your older trucks had a little bit more material to them. And they're all metal, where today's trucks, they're fiberglass, plastics, and stuff like that. Your older trucks was just better equipment.
What separated Ray from everyone else on the tour was that he was sponsored by the I-80 truck stop in Walcott, Iowa, and was the only member of the tour that was being paid to be there. Ray and the 1953 auto car always drew a crowd. But what had most people doing a double take was the vehicle driven by Tom Boss.
I built that from scratch. That's a replica of a .30 caliber machine gun. It operates on oxygen and propane, and so it sounds like a real one. And I just did it as fun for parades and kind of a noisemaker. I know on Motor Iowa, a lot of the people, the fire trucks have sirens, and some of the semi-tractors have the big horns, and this didn't have a very powerful horn on it, so I wanted something to attract a little bit of attention, and this is doing the job.
Into everyone's life, a little rain must fall, and it always seems to happen at the worst of times. Carolyn Tenney wore black on the tour and drove a hearse with the license plate To Die For, which seemed to serve as a reminder that worse things can happen than a little stormy weather.
The forecast is rain at least until Wednesday. I don't think they want to tell us after that because it's going to keep raining. But I came prepared. Black umbrella, of course.
The morning meetings mix business with fun. Birthdays and anniversaries are celebrated. host towns are acknowledged, and mistakes such as running out of gas are exposed.
Do you have anything to say to the jury of your peers?
Yeah, I thought I could talk my way out of the first time I ran out of gas. That was on the square in Sheraton. I had plenty of gas.
There's two?
The meetings don't take long, and in no time, everyone's back on the road.
Ford Mustang convertible. Bill and Marge Shreve.
Motor Ioway is like a museum on wheels. Those on the tour get to cruise the territory and display their rolling relics, while those in the gallery get a chance to view a piece of history tool into town.
Well, the kids look at this and they think it looks like a toy. It looks like a little car that they might get in a model shop or something, you know, or a Fisher Price toy. So the old men and the young children are the ones that really appreciate this car.
In some towns, Motor Ioway was a parade, and at other times, a classroom. Town squares turned into Motor Ioway parking lots, and in Iowa City, they even closed off the street in front of the old Capitol during rush hour.
How many organizations do they close Clinton Street for right during the middle of the rush hour? And it's just been great. But that's indicative of the kind of spirit we get with almost all of our communities. It speaks of Iowa. I guess that's what I have to say. It just speaks of Iowa hospitality.
The weather on day 3 of the tour was a duplicate of days 1 and 2. Wet. Of the 183 magnificent motor cars on Motor Ioway, 22 were from out of state.
This is a 1966 Chrysler 300 two-door hardtop. I'm the second owner of the car. The car was purchased in...
Art Ramo came from out of state to Motor Iowa. He made the trip to Iowa from the show-me state of Missouri.
383 engine, automatic, and there is no air conditioning in it.
Okay. We'll go on a count of 3, eyes open. Smiling, guys. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
In total, there were representatives from 9 different states on the tour. The farthest anyone traveled was from Florida. But Ron and Pat Lyman must have come in a close second. They rode in from New Mexico.
Originally lived in Iowa. We now live in New Mexico. Was reading in one of my old car race weekly magazines about the tour, and we decided to sign up. And here we are, and we're having a blast. Thank you, Iowans.
You've probably heard the saying, if you don't like the weather in Iowa, wait a few minutes and it'll change. After a few days of rain and drizzle, the sun managed to burn through the clouds, and things dried out enough that a few folks made a detour to de-car wash.
Well, today we've got a beautiful, bright day. We're going to have a great trip. What more could you ask for?
They're by our chamois.
Jody Boyson, and the Wapello JCs welcome everybody to Wapello for the auto tour. We're really glad everybody came.
According to the organizers of Motor Ioway, community support is essential to the tour's success. In Wapello, the response to Motor Ioway was, let them eat cake.
Now, you can also become an official Motor Iowa participant. Here's our thank you license plate, Jody.
Thanks.
Well, this is a 1929 Model A. They call it a blind back sedan. And we bought this car about 15 years ago in Centerville, Iowa.
You know you're on Motor Ioway when the car in front of you is going 45 and you don't mind. For Scott Mason, that would be 5 miles over optimum cruising speed.
You know, when you drive just 40 mile an hour, you see a lot of country. You can observe it, soak it in. I like driving these secondary roads too, this car. We normally drive about 40 mile an hour.
Not all of the vehicles on the tour cruised along at a comfortable 45 miles per hour. In particular, Alex Worley's NSU Spider was often just a small red blur. Finding out what made that Spider run so fast was almost as big a challenge as catching it.
You're looking at the trunk of an NSU 66 Spider. This is a Wankel engine car, and after the trunk here, you're going to be looking for an engine, and believe it or not, the engine is below the trunk. Even if it is a small car, there's still room for an engine below. And it's quite a nice little engine. I found this original in Cedar Rapids with 5,000 miles. And top speed, I did get it up to 100 miles.
The vehicles that made up the Motor Ioway fleet were all over the road. There were semi-trucks, race cars, farm vehicles, even a few replicars. Some were rare, and some were not so rare. Melvin Schweer's '67 Pontiac Catalina was rare in that it's nearly original. Original paint, original interior. His son Dan in the back was an option. But Melvin is the original owner. He keeps a logbook that is a record of everything, from every mile driven to every gallon of gas purchased.
Oh, it's a car I ordered new. I've owned it ever since. Pontiac would build it about any way you wanted it back in those years. So it's got stiff suspension, it's got a convertible frame. It was made for getting over the road.
It's a 1956 Mercury convertible with a Continental kit. That's Pete Holt.
Iowa is the world's largest drive-in restaurant. And that's what we've been doing on this trip. We've been driving and eating, driving and eating. So I just claim it's the world's best and greatest drive-in restaurant.
As the tour progressed, there was evidence that the Motor Ioway slogan of "You gotta know the territory" meant more than just getting to know the lay of the land. It also meant getting to know people. For Virginia Moore and her granddaughter Michelle, it was a chance to get to know each other.
Well, I'm Virginia Moore, and this is my granddaughter, Michelle Griglione. I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, and she's come here from Gainesville, Florida to drive with me. And I have a 74 VW, and I bought it new in December of 1974.
And she asked me about a year ago when she was planning this trip if I would go along, and I said sure. I'd love to, because it gives me time to spend with her. And also, my parents were from Iowa, but I moved away when I was pretty young, so it gives me a chance to see Iowa, and it's just been beautiful. We've had a great time.
I'm Bob Anderson, Mayor of Grinnell.
When the parade of motor cars breezed into Pella, there was cause for celebration. Conversations lasted a little longer that night. Maybe that's because those on the tour realized that within a few hours, everyone would be taking a different road home.
You know you are on Motor Iowa when? At the morning meetings, the guy next to you keeps asking, "What did Jerry say?"
The jovial mood of the night before spilled over into the final morning meeting of the tour. But it was business as usual when Jerry took care of last-minute details.
Did you get to know the territory?
John made one last presentation.
You weren't here yesterday, and I hope there were no further emergencies. But for the rest of the tour, you've got a spare zipper.
And Claude got people back on the road with,
Ladies and gentlemen, begin your conversations.
It's always on the last leg of a trip that travelers begin to measure the success of their vacations. Organizers were satisfied that Motor Ioway had been a good, safe trip where people had enjoyed themselves. But more than that, it was a vehicle for people to connect through conversation. And for many, that shifted Motor Ioway from a good time to a great experience.
Okay. Thank you all, folks. I think we're done. Safe journey home. Take care. Now you know the territory and you know the people.
The Best of Living in Iowa is funded in part by the Gilchrist Foundation. Founded by Jocelyn Gilchrist, furthering the philanthropic interests of the Gilchrist family in wildlife and conservation, the arts and public broadcasting, and disaster relief.
Funding for this program was provided by Friends, the Iowa Public Television Foundation. Generations of families and friends who feel passionate about the programs they watch on Iowa Public Television.